What if the entire flow of Niagara Falls somehow had to pass through a single drinking straw? Picture it for a moment. All that thundering water, all that raw power that attracts millions of visitors each year, forced to squeeze through a tube barely wider than your thumb. But let's follow this thought experiment to its logical conclusion, because the physics involved are absolutely mind-bending. First, let's establish what we're dealing with. Niagara Falls isn't just one waterfall, it's actually three. The American Falls, the Bridal Veil Falls, and the massive Horseshoe Falls on the Canadian side. Together, they dump an average of 6 million cubic feet of water every minute over the edge. That's roughly 168,000 cubic meters, or about 44 million gallons, crashing down every 60 seconds. To put that in perspective, imagine filling an Olympic-sized swimming pool every single second. That's the kind of volume we're talking about. Now, a standard drinking straw has an internal diameter of about 6 millimeters, giving it a cross-sectional area of roughly 28 square millimeters. That's smaller than your pinky nail. Through this tiny opening, we're going to try to push the equivalent of a small river. But here's where things get interesting. When you force that much water through such a restricted space, the velocity becomes absolutely astronomical. Using basic fluid dynamics, you can calculate that the water would need to travel at approximately 100,000 meters per second through that straw. That's over 224,000 miles per hour, or roughly 1/3 the speed of light. At this point, we're not talking about water anymore. We're talking about something that resembles a liquid particle accelerator. And that's just the beginning. At these velocities, the water wouldn't behave like the gentle stream you sip your morning coffee through. The molecular structure would start breaking down under the extreme pressure and speed. The hydrogen and oxygen atoms would begin separating, creating a plasma-like state. You'd essentially have a continuous lightning bolt of superheated water vapor screaming through your straw at relativistic speeds. The straw itself wouldn't survive this treatment for long. Even if it were made from the strongest materials known to science, the friction alone would generate temperatures exceeding those found in the core of the sun. The plastic would vaporize instantly, followed by steel, titanium, even diamond. You'd need something like a tube made of neutron star material to even dream of containing this flow. And even then, the laws of physics would be working against you. But let's imagine, for the sake of argument, that we somehow managed to create an indestructible straw. What would happen on the other end? The water exiting the straw would carry the kinetic energy of a continuous nuclear explosion. It wouldn't fall gracefully into the river below. It would create a crater that would make meteorite impacts look gentle. The sheer force would split rock, boil the surrounding air, and create a perpetual mushroom cloud of superheated steam. The energy release would be staggering. The kinetic energy of water moving at 1/3 light speed through our straw would be equivalent to detonating approximately 50 nuclear bombs every single second. The electromagnetic radiation alone would make the area uninhabitable for hundreds of miles in every direction. We'd have accidentally created a weapon of mass destruction using nothing but gravity and a drinking straw. Then there's the question of what happens upstream. Such a massive bottleneck, the water would have nowhere to go. Lake Erie, which feeds Niagara Falls, would start backing up immediately. Within hours, the entire Great Lakes system would begin to overflow. Chicago would be underwater within days. Detroit, Cleveland, Buffalo, entire cities would disappear beneath an inland sea that would make Noah's flood look like a puddle. The backup wouldn't stop there. The water would continue rising, following the path of least resistance through river systems and valleys, creating a domino effect of flooding that would reach as far as the Mississippi River basin. Within weeks, a significant portion of North America would be submerged under hundreds of feet of water. All because we tried to thread the flow of Niagara Falls through a straw. But here's the truly mind-bending part. Even with all this catastrophic energy release, the straw would still be the limiting factor. No matter how much water backed up behind it, no matter how high the pressure became, the fundamental constraint remains the same. You simply cannot push more than a certain volume through a given cross-sectional area. Without the velocity approaching the speed of light, at that point, you're not dealing with hydrodynamics anymore. You're dealing with relativistic physics. In reality, of course, this scenario would be impossible to maintain. Either the straw would be destroyed instantly, the water would find another path. Or the laws of physics would intervene in ways that would make our little thought experiment academic. The universe has built-in safety mechanisms against such absurdities. It's mostly involving the conservation of energy and the fact that matter tends to resist being accelerated to significant fractions of light speed. And yet, there's something beautifully poetic about the image. One of nature's most powerful displays, reduced to a cosmic water gun that could reshape continents. It reminds us that even the most familiar forces around us, when pushed to extremes, reveal the strange and wonderful physics that governs our universe. So the next time you're sipping through a straw, remember that you're using the same basic principle that, if scaled up to Niagara Falls, would create energies rivaling the birth of stars. Sometimes the most innocent questions lead us to the most extraordinary places, where everyday objects become doorways to understanding the fundamental forces that shape our world.